Well, hello again, and this is the Lazy Forager. Today we're going to be talking about dock, which is called Rumex crispus in scientific circles, and it's a naturalized plant, so it's not from here, but it's been here for long enough that it may as well be. It is edible. The leaves, these small leaves come up on the big seed heads. You might recognize this in fields. Because of its color, it really stands out. So you can take a nice close-up look of that. The leaves are edible, but I wouldn't advise them. They're not overly tasty. In the spring, when it first comes up, they have these nice curly, sort of crinkly leaves, and you can use that as Swiss chard, so that's not so bad. But at this point, I wouldn't even bother with these. These just get tossed off. So what we do with docks, what I do with dock primarily is I use it for flour. So this is a type of wild buckwheat almost. And so all of these little seed heads can be ground down into flour. And it's so easy to harvest, so easy to process. So I do have a couple of videos of me, I think, picking it directly in the field, so you can take a look at those. Or you can cut these seed heads off, whack them into a paper bag or a bucket or any kind of open container, bring them home and process them here. And it is so easy. So the first thing I usually do is when I get them home, I put it directly into the freezer. I always give them a bit of a shake and a bat to make sure that there's no spiders or bugs. But I pop it into the freezer just in case there is anything, that I don't want in there. It's going to freeze, and it'll be easier at least for me to see when I dump them out. And I saw nothing when I dumped these out this morning, which was good. So the second thing that I do is then I just literally go down every one of these stalks. And you see what I'm doing here with my finger and my thumb, just pinching, and then you pull it towards you, and all of the seeds fall off like that. So then I just pop it on the paper and just keep doing it with all of them. And I'm not going to do all, I'll just do one so that you can see the full stalk once it's bare. And I'm not completely persnickety. I'm not going to get every single seed off. The nice thing about this stuff too is that the chaff, sort of the material, the fiber that's around the seed, some people do try and winnow that off. Again, I'm lazy, and it doesn't hurt you. So you can grind that down with it, and it's not going to do you any harm, and it's just a lot less work. So that's what you're sort of aiming for, is a really sort of pretty stalk bereft of seeds. There may be a few. If you do not want dock coming up in your property, you may not want to put this in your home compost, but if you have a green bin program, an organics program where you live, you might want to pop it in there. I do keep some of this in my own garden, and I have it on the sides because it can creep in if you let it, but I don't let it. And because it's on the borders of my garden, first of all, it's a really good protection against certain animals. They won't go in and they won't go through this. But it's just a nice border plant, so it looks really nice in the fall, and even in the fall it's still looking like this. So this is early August, and it's already starting to dry up. So once you have all your seeds down, then comes the next part, which is roasting them. So that, again, very easy. You get a cookie sheet, okay, line it with some parchment paper. Put your seeds on it, line it with some parchment paper because otherwise your seeds may burn. Line it, pop it into the oven for around 350 for maybe 10-15 minutes. Check it, stir it up a little bit, another 10-15 minutes. You can even go a little higher heat. Just be careful not to burn it. It can very easily burn. But if you roast it right, it tastes almost a bit nutty. So once it's roasted, it comes out a bit darker. So you can see the difference. I'm not sure you can see the difference here, but let me see if I can't get a handful of this stuff. It will darken up once you roast it. So and then using just a little coffee grinder that I have, and that I use an extra one. Like I have 2 coffee grinders, one for actual coffee, one for spices and stuff like this. Once it's ground, it looks a bit like this. So it almost looks like cocoa. It's this gorgeous color. And you can see those little sort of whiter flakes, the lighter flakes here. That's some of the chaff. That's the sort of, the material around the seed head that I mentioned. So again, it's not going to hurt you too much. So when you go to use this, the one really important tip that I've got is don't use all dock flour. That's a lesson in frustration and just a waste. So I would say no more than about 1 part dock flour to 3 parts other kinds of flour. So 1/4 dock to 1 cup of, white flour, whole wheat, whatever flour you normally use. You can mix, you can play around with the amounts. You may only want to start with a tablespoon or 2 just to get sort of the color and a little bit of the flavor. But you do have to usually increase the amount of liquid in your recipe. And as I said, if you're gonna be making like maybe a bread, something with a yeast, you might actually want to let it sit and rise longer, a lot longer than you would normally think, because it is very, very hard. It takes a long time for the liquid to absorb in. So that is dock in under 10 minutes. So I hope you enjoy, and I hope you get out foraging. And even if you're not eating, just learn. This stuff is cool.